Hi there, welcome back to Scribbles and Inkstains. My name, if you're new here, is Mary, and this channel in 2023 will be focusing on a more conscious turn from purchasing stationery, fountain pens, art, and journal supplies to creating with my overflowing stockpile of those things. For today's video, I'm going to record a baseline inventory of all the fountain pens currently in my stash, including one still in a package. I mentioned a term in my last video that is the overarching theme for at least the start of my 2023. My focus last year was very much driven by what is called the hedonic treadmill, the idea that you bring something new into your stash, it causes a blip of contentedness or happiness or joy, but due to hedonic adaptation, your level of happiness very quickly returns to its baseline. The hedonic treadmill is a larger metaphor for a longer, more rat-like, if you will, and I'm referring to myself, no one else out there, pursuit of pleasure from acquiring material things. I do want to clarify I'm not on a no-buy. This has nothing to do with minimalism. I'm not in any way a minimalist, but I am interested in shifting to a year of learning about and creating with all the things that are sinking my house, if you will, and making those decisions of what belongs, what is really useful to my process, and what maybe belongs in a better home, a home that will be more appreciative of that supply or fountain pen ink. So this is my year of creative exploration. This mind shift is already bringing up my overall mood and emotional health because I find the dose that comes from the state of flow when I'm making something is much more solid than the blip that comes from something new. I'll use timestamps and chapter dividers to help you navigate if your time is limited, if you just want to skip all the psychology and jump right to the pens. I do want to start with a sneak peek at how I'm going to track stationery this year and the decision processes that I'll work through to attempt to use my time and resources more creatively. Last year I used this traveler's notebook, Vertical Weekly, from July through December to journal about all the lovely fountain pens, inks, and journaling supplies I was buying on a weekly basis. So typically these were things that I hauled during specific weeks with fountain pen ink swatches, with some color swatches, with doodles of things that I was acquiring, with mini collages of packaging materials and whatnot. They had to do with those things that I was bringing into my collection. Because I expected to continue the same process, I did pick up a complete year-long set of the Vertical Weekly, but then I was up against my goals for 2023. This is what happens when I buy things before I necessarily go through that reflective process of exploration and considering what's working and what's not. I did purchase the full year of Vertical Weekly. This year, I decided to use this notebook as my want journal, and my goal is to take journal about the things that I'm tempted by and turn them into sort of that past tense wanted. Okay, so let's talk about the pens. We'll look at TWSBI first. I'll start with my Ecos and move on to some of the other TWSBIs that I have in my stash. By far, the most pens I have for any one brand and model is the TWSBI Eco. Some of these are the Eco Ts, which honestly, if you're right-handed and you have kind of a overhand grip, then I don't see any issue with this triangular grip, but if you're left-handed or you are an underwriter, then that might not be very pleasant for you. Anyhow, let's look at the overall situation. I've got one 1.1 stub in this Eco Black. I love this nib. I love this pen. I like to put generally my chroma shaders in these pens because you really get a gushing wet flow and you can see all those varieties of ink. Next up, I have two broads in the Ecos. One is my mint blue, currently loaded with Ferris Wheel Press, Queen and Castle. I'll link up in the cards my currently inked. I'm not going to take too much time to talk about that other than to say I absolutely adore shimmer inks in my TWSBI broad nibs. And I'm pretty comfortable now, after owning these for well, this one dates back multiple years. I'm very comfortable removing the piston out the back. It comes with a little wrench. It's a good idea to keep a little bit of grease that comes with the pen on the piston. You don't have to do that every time, but if you're cleaning out your pens once a month, then you might want to consider every other time adding a little bit of that pen grease just to keep the piston moving efficiently. And I love these pens. Yeah, glow purple and mint blue, both in broad. I also have two mediums. One is the Jade Rose Gold. This one's a newer model. As you can see, it has the rose gold piston, rose gold clip, band, and just the regular red finial. This is a limited edition. I don't know if they're still available, but it was current at the end of 2022, so I would imagine they're still available from retailers. Rose gold nib on this one also. It's a little pricier. It comes with an ink though, and it's really a gorgeous blue with some heavy sheening, so it's not a throwaway ink by any means. And the cerulean blue. Love both of these mediums. Love the medium TWSBIs for shimmer ink. Then I have two fines, which generally I do have one of these inked. This is probably one of my oldest fountain pens, the clear demonstrator model, and then I picked up the transparent purple, both of these in fine. And last but not least, I've got the glow green, currently inked with my indelible ink. My plan is to always have an extra fine nib inked in a waterproof ink for art purposes, and that's how I've been using this. It looks like it has a larger fill than it does. It's still just about 1 mil, the fill, but I've been moving the pen around and it looks like 2 or 3 mil, but it's not. Okay, so that's it for my ecos. Then we have my one TWSBI swipe. Now, I'm not a big fan of the clip, but I do love the fact that this pen comes with 2 different kinds of cartridges. I got mine in the broad. I got this in a broad, thinking that this is probably the easiest pen to clean in terms of shimmer inks. You can completely take apart the piston and it's a lot of fun. The only thing I'm not totally crazy about is if I have a really if I'm working with a death grip, I have felt this back part sort of crunch. I don't have any cracks in the body, and it wouldn't matter if I did, really, because I'm not eyedrappering this pen, but it does not feel as sturdy in the body as the Ecos, if that's a consideration for you. All right, that brings us to 2 580s. One is the 580 Iris Extra Fine, as is my VAC 700R. The TWSBI Extra Fines are gorgeous writers. I feel like this one writes a little broader than my Iris, but again, this is the year of getting to know my pens far more deeply, and I will do some nib comparison videos as well. Last but certainly not least, this is a contender for one of my very favorite fountain pens, the TWSBI Mini 580 in rose gold. I got the piston fill, not the vac, and I love it. This one is a fine. It is a beautiful, beautiful writer and a wonderful pocket pen. It does screw to post, and yeah, I love it. The aesthetics, I love the nib, I love everything about this pen. The next brand that we are going to dig into are my Kawecos. Most of these are the Kaweco Sports, and I've got a broad, a medium, multiple fines, and a Perkeo in medium. This is kind of their beginner pen, and I really like it. I think this is a great fountain pen to bring into work and share with my students without worrying about something happening to it. Has a very satisfying click capping mechanism, and this one, I just refill my little Kaweco cartridges, and that gives me enough ink to really get to know the pen without it becoming tiresome. I will be talking about these 3 Kawecos in my currently inked, so I'm not going to go very much in depth with them, other than to say I was really unhappy with this as a broad. This is the Kaweco Sport Macchiato, and yeah, but I worked on the nib. At first, all I did was floss it, and still wasn't really happy with the wetness of the nib. For a broad, I really wanted this to be a gusher, and it wasn't. It still is not my favorite for shimmer inks. That would be my TWSBI broads, but this one is much, much, much improved. And I'll be showing you more about that in my currently inked reflection video coming up in just a couple days. I have the dark olive in medium, same thing. This nib needs work. I'm not a big fan. Generally, this sits in my pen case. I do absolutely love, I've always loved my Brass Sport. This one came with a pretty smooth nib, but again, not wet enough to my liking, so I was able to do some nib work on this and fix it. I have the Iridescent Pearl in fine. All of these are fines, and the reason I have so many fines is for that little art project that I've referenced in my last video, and you'll be seeing more about that on my channel as I do drawings. These are basically, I always have 3 of my Kaweco Sports loaded, one with a warm brown, one with a cool blue, and one with a third color depending on what I'm up to. Okay, so soft tangerine and mellow blue, these are all fines, and let's get on to the next section. Next up, I have some really fun pens, worry-free experimental pens. These were all purchased on Amazon, uber cheap. These are the Jinhaos. This is the 159 with a medium nib. This is a number 6 nib, and it's really easy to swap out Jowo nibs, and I have some that I picked up from Goulet, branded Goulet, and that allows me to take this one pen and go anywhere from bought a broad and a fine, and this one came with a medium, so I've got the full range of nibs for this. Comes with a cartridge converter, and it looks really big and bulky and heavy, but it's actually pretty comfortable even in my small hand, and writes quite well. I prefer it with the Goulet nibs, but yeah, I'm happy I got that one. And these were really a surprise. These were meant to help me resist the Lamy 2000. This is the Jinhao 80. It's only a dupe in looks. It came as a pack of 2. This one I've used and inked. This one I plan to give away to a pen friend, but this one I love. It is a beautiful smooth writer. They're both fine nibs. Cartridge converter. Super easy to replace the nibs. I don't know if these are interchangeable with the Lamy Safari nibs. Let me know in the comments below if you know. No brainer, throw in my bag, throw in my school pen pouch, and I just don't worry about these pens, and they write beautifully. This is kind of a unique category. These are brands that I have one of, and I'm actually okay with that for each of these 3 pens. This one is kind of a novelty. This is the Opus 88 pocket pen in the coffee version. I have it in a medium nib, and it's an eyedropper pen. The nib that came on mine is nice and smooth and nice and wet. I fell in love with the sample of Diamine Autumn Oak with this pen, and yeah, it was really hard to not ink this continuously through the fall. I have one of the Benu Euphorias. I could not resist the cookies and cream milkshake edition from Goulet. This is a number 6 nib in medium, super, super wet writer. So this is really great for shading or shimmering or sheening inks. One Pelikan M405 in black. It kind of has this black striped body. This is a 14 karat gold nib. Got this on the German Amazon. This says it's a medium nib, but that sure looks like a broad to me, and it is super wet and flowy. Love this pen, love this nib. And I have one Platinum 3776. Purchased this from Amazon Japan and got a great price on it. 14 karat nib in broad. This writes like glass. I love it. I will be inking this pen in February. And finally, a much more budget pen that I only have one of is my Teranishi Guitar Fountain Pen in green with a fine nib. I picked this up at St. Louis Art Supply because they actually have a service where they will tune and smooth the nib of any pen that you buy that's over $20 or something. Inky Rocks talks about this brand quite a lot, their inks and their pens. I have 2 flex pens from Fountain Pen Revolution. These are the Himalaya version 2 Jade Smoke with a flex nib and Amethyst Purple with a flex nib. You'll be seeing these in my currently inked in the coming months. These write beautifully and I adore them. They have kind of a funky smell, but I really love these pens. I don't know, they might have ebonite feeds. I'll have to, again, I just need to learn my pens more, and that's what this whole year is all about. Just 3 more brands. We'll look at Sailors first. This one is a Fude nib, which I got from Amazon. Super cheap. It's fun to draw with, and you'll be seeing more of this in my art content videos coming up. I have, in terms of budget pens, I've got their Compass 1911, and these are fun. They're a good way to try out the MF medium fine nib if you're unsure whether that's going to be attractive to you in terms of the line width. And that's not to say it's a dupe for their gold nibs. It's not, but I do like this pen. It's a beautiful, beautiful writer, and it is, of course, nowhere near the writer that these are. So we'll talk about my Pro Gear Slims. I have 2 in the medium fine nib. This is the Pen of the Year 2022 Soda Pop Blue. I love it. It is so gorgeous. 14 karat, medium fine nib. Wonderful writer. Nowhere near as feedbacky as I thought. If you like writing with black wing pencils, I think you'll really love this nib. These really came down in price on Amazon. You could get a hold of the Shikioris. This is the Harazora in medium fine. These were like right around $70 at one point in 2022, so I did pick one up in medium fine. It might be my most simple sailor pen, but actually it has more opacity here in the section than it does in the body, and that gives it just that little extra something something. So I do really love all of these Pro Gear Slims. And this was my birthday pen. This is the Pro Gear Slim with a medium nib in Momo. And I love it. Again, 14 karat, medium nib. Love the way this pen writes. And I have 1 Pro Gear regular size with an 18 karat nib, also in medium. This was purchased on Amazon Japan. It's gorgeous. I love it. Love everything about these pens, including this kind of ivory and gold. Yeah, love my sailors. Okay, let's talk about Pilot and then Lamy. Starting with the Kakuno, not much to say about this pen. It's a wonderful, probably my favorite starter pen. I have it in medium. It has that little smiley face on the nib. The only thing I wish were different about these is I wish it didn't have these holes, because I do feel like this pen does not stay as wet as long as my TWSBIs. Minor complaint. I do prefer the Kakuno to the Pilot Metropolitan. These are my oldest pilots, purchased many, many years ago. I got the white with a medium nib. Of course, all these nibs are interchangeable. I got the black with a fine nib and the purple leopard with a bent, if you can see that, bent fine nib. Again, I could pull that and replace it, but I prefer the way my Kakuno writes. Brings us to the more bougie pens. This is Custom 74. I love this. It's got a medium nib, and yeah, one of my favorites. But I think that Platinum beats it out. We'll have to see. I'll have to do a comparison. Again, that's what this year is for. And the Vanishing Point, which I really was not a big fan of until I inked it up this time with a Pilot Iroshizuku ink, and I am enjoying it. It is the scratchiest gold nib that I have, and there's just no way around any other descriptor. Let's talk Lamy. I have 2 Lamy All-Stars. This is like the graphite color, I believe. And this is, I don't remember what the blue is called. Ocean blue, something like that. And I somehow lost the section and feed and nib, and I have no idea how. Gone for years. I'm still hanging on to the body because it's super easy to take this section unit off and just pop it onto this pen if I feel like loading up a blue pen. Van Ness also sells these section and feeds for pretty cheap, so I'll probably pick up an extra one. Nib size, I have a stub 1.5, I have 2 fines, and I should probably pick up an extra fine and a medium just in the nibs at some point this year because I love this pen. It's a super wet writer. It's a fun pen. I don't worry about this pen. And this pen, this iconic, beautiful, beautiful pen, is the Lamy 2000. I really resisted for a long time because I didn't believe the hype, but I adore this pen. It's currently inked with Monteverde Chameleon, so you'll see my review, my kind of deep dive into this ink pen combination in just a couple days, but big, big fan. All right, and let's look at the last 2 pens in my stash. This one I just opened and lost the footage. These are Nahvalur Original Pluses, and I love this pen. This is the Melicara Purple with a medium nib, and this is the Lovina Black with a broad nib. And it's just wonderful. Love this pen so much. I know that you can remove the section and nib on this pen just by unscrewing it. And I feel like you can do the same on this pen. I've never experimented with it, but I need to because I stripped the screws on the piston. I'm trying to pull this out the back. It comes with a proprietary wrench, but I could not find that anywhere. And so I thought, oh, I'll just use a really soft cloth and some fine jeweler's needle nose pliers, and that was a bad idea. The pen is still usable, so live and learn. I will never do that to another pen. I'm so sorry that I did it to this one. And you'll be seeing this pen inked in February's Currently Inked. Yeah, so those are my pens. Super happy with where things are, but I am kind of pumping the brakes on new in all my stationery. And the challenge that I'm leveling to myself is that instead of looking at new pen bodies and full pens, I'm really going to challenge myself if I see something that I feel like I want to complete all nib sizes. I'm going to do so by just purchasing the nibs and not the entire pen body. And I feel like that's a pretty good way to get to know what I have and deep dive into what I have. And that kind of includes disassembling them, cleaning them, matching them up with different inks, and learning all the characteristics of these pens in a more level-headed, kind of informative way. If that sounds interesting to you, please hit like and subscribe so you're notified of future videos. I hope you enjoyed this tour, and if you put together something like this on your own channel, leave me a comment in the comments below, and I would love to pop over and see your stash. Not for that fear of missing out or any of that. I just love hearing people talk about their pens and why they like what they have and what their experiences are with using the pens with a variety of inks. That's kind of my jam. So thanks again for your time, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.